Hello, welcome back for a new video. I've had my iX1 now for over 2 months, so I thought this was a good opportunity to make an update about my impressions so far. So join me for this video and remember to both subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any future videos. Hello and welcome back. I have had my iX1 now for 2 months and I have been driving about 4,000 kilometers. So I thought I should give you an update about my impressions so far. And this is all my personal opinions, so I will point on things that I like and things that I think could have been improved. So join me for this video. And of course, a lot of this also refers to the normal X1. Exterior and exterior design. I think the iX1 and the X1 looks amazing, and actually I think it's the best looking BMW SUV today. And also if you compare it to other mid-size SUV on the market, I think also this is the best looking one. Of course it's a matter of personal taste, but at least I think that the M Sport package really suits this car. And it makes the whole car look much more grown up and mature than without the M Sport package. And especially I like the bump on the hood and the air inlets in the front. And I got a lot of questions about my color, the frozen pure gray, if it's hard to maintain. Actually not, I think. It hides scratches and dirt really well. I wash it as a normal car. The only thing is to remember not to use any washing liquid with wax or polish. Otherwise it's really easy to maintain. I also did a ceramic matte coating on the car when it was new. And of course if you have an accident or something, it's a little bit harder to repair and get the correct colors, etc. But still, the look on this color is amazing. And if you look on the bump on the hood, the air inlets in the front and the side design elements, they are much more visible in this matte color than in a glossy one. I also have the 20-inch wheels, which I think look fantastic. And I have the Hakkapeliitta Nordic high friction tires on it now in the winter, which have been working really good both in snow and on ice. Another design element on the car which I think looks very cool is the rear spoiler, and once again the matte color really enhances all these lines. So, when it comes to exterior and exterior design, I will give the car 5 out of 5. When it comes to interior, I think BMW has done also this really good. This is the M Sport trim with soft materials and some blue stitchings, which I think look really good. We should remember that this is the lowest version of the BMW range, is the 1 Series, but still the quality of materials and everything is excellent. And you have real aluminium, it's not some sort of painted plastic or anything. Also I think the layout of the dash is really nice. And In this one I also got the thick M Sport steering wheel, which I like a lot, which gives a really good grip and comfort. Then I have the M Sport seats, of course, with leatherette and Alcantara. I don't like leather because I think it's hot in the summer and cold in the winter, and also the Alcantara gives you a much better grip. They look really nice, and but I have some small comfort problems that I will cover in a later section in this review. Also, I think it's a pity that you can't adjust the armrest in the middle in especially height. It's a fixed position for that. But it looks really nice and all the materials are really good. When it comes to the rear seat, there's good amount of leg room. I am 178 centimeters and sit behind myself in the correct driving position now. But because of the battery, the placement of the feet are quite high and the angle of the legs are not the most comfortable for longer journeys. It might work better for children and shorter people. One thing that I like very much is the placement of the phone charger. It's really a good placement in the middle, and you got this hatch to lock it in place. And it's also space enough for a bigger telephone like my iPhone 14 Pro Max, which is really good. And down in the bottom part you also have these two small air vents that help to cool the telephone while charging. So really good function for charging your telephone wireless. One thing that I don't like is the cup holders. There are no inserts or anything to adjust to smaller cups, so everything rattles around there. So this looks really simple, and it's a shame when everything else is so well made. I also have the Harman Kardon sound system, which first of all it sounds really good, and it also looks very good with these speaker grills. Also the interior lighting is really well made out in this car. So in all I will give the interior 4 out of 5. When it comes to space in the boot, I think it's okay if you consider the size of the car. You also have some nets on the side and some attachment points, and what is good is that you can fold the back seat 40-20-40. So that makes it more flexible, of course. And on the right side you also have a 12-volt socket, and the other knob there is for unfolding the electric tow bar. And then you got some storage under the floor for charging cables and a lot of other things. And this area is actually quite useful and quite big for being an EV. But there's no frunk in the car, so that means that if you have some luggage in the back, you need to unload it in order to get to the cables. So it would have been, of course, better with a small compartment in the front of the car for some charging cables at least. There is also some hooks on both sides for shopping bags, but the design is not the best. There is no real hook on them, so every time I have tried it with some shopping bags, they fall off as soon as I start driving. The cover for the boot space is one big hard piece, which is folded on the middle, so you have to unlock it from the hatch, and then you have to take it out, and it's a bit clumsy and takes up a lot of space in the boot when you don't use it, and there's no space under the floor to store it or anything. So this could have been sold in a better way, I think. Also, folding the back seats, you can't do it from the boot, so you have to open the doors and go inside the car to do this, which is not that convenient. And it's actually quite hard to reach, at least the middle section. So once again, it works, but it could have been solved in a more practical way, I think. When it comes to storage inside the car, of course you have a glove compartment, and that's small like on all other cars today. And then you have this ridiculous small compartment under the armrest where you can't even fit a pair of sunglasses. Then under the armrest there is an open compartment, but it's very hard to reach, especially while you're driving, and the sides on it is very low, so things easily fall out of there. So it's not very useful. I would have preferred a normal box or something. Then on almost every BMW I've had in the past, there used to be a compartment for wallet, keys, etc. beside the steering wheel under the light switches, but unfortunately not on this one. Also in the overhead light there is no space for sunglasses that I also have had in a lot of other cars. So actually there's no real good place for your sunglasses in the car. One important thing to consider when you order your iX1 is that, at least in Sweden, roof rails are not standard on the iX1. They are standard on the normal X1, and you can choose them in black or aluminium. But for iX1 you have to remember to order them, at least in Sweden. Then I have the electric tow bar on my car, which works with the press of a button, and the operation is really fast and convenient. But there's no protection for it under the car. But I actually found a solution for this, so if you check my playlist for the iX1 you will find a good solution for that. But it works impressively fast. So when it comes to practicality, I will give it a 3, but it's actually close to a 2 because I think they could have solved a lot of things in a much more clever and convenient way. When it comes to range, my car is equipped with 20-inch wheels. It's fully loaded, so I had a lot of heavy accessories like the panoramic sunroof, electric tow bar, etc. But still the consumption is really good. Since I picked up the car from the factory, the average consumption is 22 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. And I can easily drive it at around 20 on longer distances. And we should also remember that this is in winter conditions, so the temperatures has been everything from -10 to 0 degrees, and also the car runs on Nordic high friction tires, 20-inch, which of course is not good for the consumption. But still, consumption really good. The battery is a little bit on the small side, so the range is something between 250 and 300 kilometers normally in the winter. It's not bad, but it's not good either if you consider that it's quite an expensive car, and it's also a brand new car. When it comes to charging, it's the same result there. It's not bad, but it's not good either, I think. I charged it at optimum conditions last week, so I started charging at 16% and the charger stopped at 80%. And I also preconditioned the battery before charging, and it started at about 120 kilowatts. But after a few minutes it drops down to something between 70 and 90, which has been the normal conditions. So from 16 to 80% it took me 35 minutes. It's not super fast, but it's okay. But this is an area which I think BMW could have done better in a brand new car 2023. So when it comes to range and charging, I will give the car a 3. When it comes to handling, if you want to drive the car sporty, it's a very agile car. The chassis is really good setup. All iX1s has a standard M Sport chassis adaptive, and this means that compared to the normal X1 it's a little bit stiffer and it's lower 15 millimeters. And I have the 20-inch wheels, which of course makes the handling even better, but we should remember that this is now really soft winter tires for Nordic conditions, so they are not the best for handling. But the car is really agile, and what I like the most is that the precision in the accelerator, the brakes, the steering, everything is very precise and well done by BMW. And there I think BMW today is the best of all EVs I have driven. And it's the same of all BMWs, even EVs I have driven. It all works really good when it comes to accelerator and brake feeling. The steering, it's a little bit vague in the middle, not the most stable, but that makes the driving a little bit more relaxing on longer distances. But when it comes to precision in the steering and the handling and control of the car, it's really excellent. And still the car is very comfortable, so it's a extremely good balance between comfort and sport, I think. And also now I drive the car in normal mode, so if I put in the sport mode it gets even better, because then the chassis is even stiffer and the steering is sharper and the throttle response is more aggressive, and this works without being harsh or uncomfortable. So in all, a really fun car to drive. Performance, it's good, like in all EVs. It's not super fast, but more than sufficient, I think. So it's a fun car to drive. And what impresses me the most is the balance between sport and comfort, which BMW has managed to do excellent, I think. And if you have the M Sport version, you also have this boost paddle on the steering wheel, and it means that you can have the car in normal driving mode, and then when you want to do an overtaking or drive more aggressively, you just push it and then you have maximum power for 10 seconds. And this is maybe not the most necessary, but for sure it's really fun to drive with that function. One thing that works really well in this car is that you don't have to set the recuperation manually. You can put it to adaptive, and then the car automatically increase or decrease the regeneration depending on your driving circumstance. So for instance, now when I come to a turn, the adaptive regen automatically increase the recuperation. And also if there's a car in front of me, or if it's a circulation place or something, or a change in the speed limits. So this makes the driving almost autonomous, even though it's not that. So it's very relaxing, and of course it also saves energy in the battery, and it all works very good. So when it comes to handling and performance, I will give it a 4. When it comes to driving position, I think it's good. The only thing that is a little bit disappointing is that you can't adjust the armrest in the middle in any position. But otherwise the driving position is very good. The seats are comfortable. I have the M Sport seats and they are really comfortable in the back, but the seats are the seat area, the lower part, is a little bit narrow. And this means for that when you drive longer distances, it will squeeze on your thighs, and that's not very comfortable. And normally on sport seats you can adjust this a little bit, but not on this car. So before you buy a car with M Sport seats, make sure to try them out, and also try them out driving a little bit longer, because they are not the most comfortable. But otherwise the car is really comfortable. The noise levels are very good, I think. I drive now at 110 kilometers per hour, and the car is reasonable quiet. We should though remember that this is again the really soft Nordic winter tires, and they are of course very good when it comes to noise level and also comfort. But in all, it's a really good comfortable car, and at the same time sporty when you want it to be that. So it's a fun car to drive on smaller roads with a lot of curves and twists, but at the same time very relaxing on highways. So I'm really impressed of the balance that BMW have managed to achieve on this car. So when it comes to comfort, I will give it a 4 also here, but make sure that you try the M Sport seats before you order the car, and try them for a little bit longer driving. When it comes to driver support systems, they all work really good. Now I have assisted driving activated, and this means that the car not only controls the speed and the distance to the car in front of me, but it also steers in the lane. And I have the driving assistant professional in my car, so I have all the options. But one thing that I really appreciate is that the driving assistant can read the speed on the signs and then automatically change the speed in the cruise control according to the signs. But I can also put in manual and offset in the system, so if I don't want to go exactly the correct speed, I can make the car go a little bit faster. And this is actually really good, because if you're, for instance, at the 90 road and you drive exactly 90, all the cars want to take over you. So I normally set it to +5. So now I enter a 40 sign here, and then the car reduced the speed to 40, because you can set 2 different limits. One up to, I think it's 60 kilometers, and there I have it at 0, because of course it's more important when you drive at lower speed limits to keep the speed limit exact. And then on when I increase the speeds, I had set to +5. So now I enter 60 sign, and it's still on 60, and this works really well. I mean, it reads the sign, puts in everything in the cruise control automatically, and it makes the driving really relaxing. And especially in Sweden, because we have a lot of different speed limits, and the changes for, as you see now, for maybe only for a few hundred meters. And now when I leave this small village, there's a 70 sign, and as soon as I reach the 70 sign, it puts in 75 because it's over 60. So a very good system, and the steering support works really well, and is very relaxing on longer journeys. Also, all other functions for driver assistance, like the side collision warning, works very good. And the same goes for the 360 degrees cameras with the park assist, which lets you park automatically. You don't even have to put the car between forward and reverse. The car does it all for you. The navigation system in the car also works really good, and especially with this augmented reality where you can make a live image on the road in front of you with clear arrows where to turn, etc. And then there's a lot of other functions in the car, like for instance the drive recorder that automatically starts recording in the event of a crash, but you can also activate it manually and review recording separately from all 4 cameras. You also have a very good head-up display with the possibility to, for a small fee, order the speed camera warning system. Also, especially good I think is the panoramic view, for which you can put in activation points in the system, so it automatically enables the panoramic view on saved locations. I have made a separate video about this, so check my iX1 playlist so you find all the information about this. And this is also for a lot of other functions. There's a lot of videos in my iX1 playlist that explains a lot of the functions in the car. But in all, I think all the assistance systems works really good. So I will give the assistance systems actually 5 out of 5. When it comes to the iDrive 8 system, I was one of many who was disappointed when they took away the control wheel from the iDrive system, because I've had it in a lot of other BMWs and it worked really well. But last time my car was at the workshop, I got to borrow an iX, and I have driven that one before also. And after a while, because that car has the control wheel, after a while I stopped using it and only used the touch controls, because it's much easier to point on the screen than fiddle around with the control wheel. In the 8 system, in the 7 system it works really well, because the menu system is much better there I think than in the 8 system. And also BMW explained that they will keep the control wheel for the bigger screens, and in the iX, which is much wider, you have a real problem to reach at the farmost right side of the screen. So there it makes sense to use the control wheel for some functions. So actually I think that this little bit smaller setup in the iX1 works better than the bigger screen in the iX. But of course the screen is bigger and more impressive, and much better view in the bigger screen. And the main complaint, I mean the 8 system works really well, I have a lot of functions. The main complaint I have is that it can be really hard to find the functions. You have a lot of sub menus with small icons, and this is only the vehicles app. Then I have the infotainment apps here, and then you can go into all apps, and then it's even more confusing. So to find the correct setting for what you want to do with the car can be a real problem sometimes, because the menu system is not that logical made out either. So, but there is one function that I think a lot of users of the iDrive 8 is not aware of. It's the search functions. So when you go into all apps, you have this on the top. And say for instance that I want to do an adjustment on the digital key. I'll just start typing, and here it is. And then it takes me directly to the correct setting. The same is if I want to do some adjustment on the sound, for instance. I start typing. Here I have iconic drive sound or sound settings. So this makes it much more easier to use. And then of course you can make your own shortcuts up here. You can make 8 individual and save some settings that you want to access in an easier way. Another problem with the iDrive 8 and the touch system is that if I, for instance, want to do some changes here on the way the car locks and unlocks, then I have a lot of small switches here, and if I want to scroll down or up, it's very easy that you see, it's only if you push that, it's really easy that you change the setting instead of just scrolling. And especially while you're driving, this can be really annoying. It also have a voice recognition system, and it works quite well, I think, but not in all languages. So I have to set it in English because Swedish is not in the system yet, but it works okay. And then we have the function with the app and remote control of the car. I made a separate video about this, so I put a link up in the corner, and you can watch that separately. And this is something that I always have problem with the most car, that it doesn't work reliable. And some basic functions like start to preheat the car. I had an Audi before, it almost never worked. And I must say in this car it works really good. I mean, none of the cars I've tried with the remote apps have been working good. But this is the best system so far in BMW, in the My BMW app. The problem I have that is from time to time it shows me the complete wrong figure of the charging state in the battery, and that is of course not good, because that is one really critical function that you want to have when you drive an EV. So the car can be charged at 70%, but the app can show me 36, and then if I refresh the app it shows me 57, if I refresh again it shows me 24, and so on. It doesn't happen all the time, but very often, unfortunately. But otherwise, I think the iDrive 8 system is a good system. You have a lot of functions, but it can be hard to find where they are. So make sure to use the search function, because it will make everything much easier. I also have the Apple CarPlay in my car, and this works also very good. It uses the whole screen. I had a Mercedes before, and it only uses maybe half of the screen in the middle, but this one uses the whole media display, and the graphics is very crisp, and it all works really good. Another thing that works really good in the car is the Harman Kardon sound system. It's not super expensive system, but for that money it sounds really good. And also one thing that impressed me is the radio. I often have problem in Sweden with the radio reception in almost every car I drive, but in this car the radio reception has been really good, and on a lot of roads where I can't connect to certain stations, it's not a problem in this car. So the normal radio reception for FM works better in most of the other cars I have used. And then if you are lucky, you also have digital radio, but it's not that common in Sweden, only in the bigger cities. The best thing if you want to have real good audio quality is actually to use Apple CarPlay. First of all, when you listen to music there through Spotify or Apple Music, it sounds really good. And also I very often use the tune-in radio for listening to radio in the app instead of the FM network, and this makes the sound quality much better as long as you have a good reception. One thing in the iDrive 8 system that doesn't work that good is the climate controls. Now everything is set to automatic, and then if you have heating in the steering wheel or in the seats, you can set it to different levels. But this is not actual levels on the heating, this is level of how fast the auto function should start them depending on the outside temperature. So if I have the seat heating, for instance, I can set it to low, medium, high. And if it's set to high, it starts at a little bit higher temperatures. And if I set it to low, it must get really cold before it puts on the heating in the seats. And as soon as it's activated, it will turn red. So now it's +4 degrees outside, and if I want to have some heating, say for instance on the steering wheel, nothing happens on low, nothing happens on medium, nothing at high. It's first at very high that it starts to heat the steering wheel. And I can't set the level or anything on this. The only way to do this is to put the climate control in manual. Then I can manually adjust the heating in 3 steps, both on the steering wheel and on the seats. But then everything else in the car is set to manual. And for some reason I have been driving the iX a few times, and it works much better in the iX, this adaptive regulation of the seat heating and everything. So this function works really bad, and it's really a mess only to put on some heating in the steering wheel or in the seats. So this is not working good at all. Hopefully a software update or something will make it function better, but today it's not working good at all. But in all, I think the system works good, so I will give the user interface 4. The main problem I've had with the car is the adaptive LED lights, which hasn't been working as they should. But this is a problem I share with a lot of other iX1 owners, and hopefully soon BMW will fix this. I've already made a lot of videos on this on my channel, so if you go through my iX1 playlist, you will find a lot of other videos about this matter. Another problem I have had is the sensors for the side collision warning and for the driver assist. And this has happened maybe 3 or 4 times, and it can happen if the sensors are dirty or covered in snow, but this has not been the case. For me, it has been enough to turn off the car and start it again, and then the problem has disappeared. This can be related to the same problem as the LED lights, because for some functions they use the same camera. Another problem I had is the lumbar support. I have the active seats with massage, and then the car should store the position of the lumbar support in the seat's memory. But this doesn't work, and every time I start the car it goes back to some sort of factory setting. BMW knows about this problem. They had it on a lot of other BMW models, so they did a reset of the control module, but that didn't help. So hopefully they will find a solution soon for this also. I also have a problem with the digital key. When I got the car, I enabled digital key both in my iPhone and in my Apple Watch. And when I have both the watch and the iPhone with me, and also the normal key for the car, it makes the car constantly locking and unlocking, because I use the function that it should lock and unlock when I get close to the car or when I leave the car, which is a very convenient function. And this is because all 3 keys work on different distances, and also they store then 3 different settings in the memory. So I had to take away both my iPhone and my Apple Watch, and now I only use the key, because there I have the buttons for opening the trunk and preheating the car, and now everything is working as it should. But besides these problems, the car has been working really good, and the build quality is very solid. There's absolutely no rattles or squeaks or anything, so a really solid build quality in the car. So because of this, I will give the quality a 4. So this leads to the conclusion of my experiences so far. First of all, as I mentioned before, this is all my personal opinions, and also this is based on the options and equipment that I have on my car and the Swedish specifications. But in all, I am very satisfied with the car, as you see on my scores. It's really only the practicality and the range and the charging which is a little bit disappointing. But as a total, this is the best EV that I have owned, and I have actually owned several, and also several of them has been much more expensive than this one. So in all, it's a great car, I think. And make sure that you subscribe to my channel and also hit the notification bell, because I will of course release new videos. And I also have an iX1 playlist on my channel with all the videos that relates to the iX1. And in a lot of them there are a lot of useful tips how to use the car. You find a link to it in the end screen of this video. So enjoy, take care and drive safely, and we see each other in the next video.